Welcome back, friends. I'm Ed Harold, and I'm excited to have another podcast, a Life with Breath expert series with Justin Ternes of True Self Health. I became aware of Justin's work on Instagram. Amazing. And, he just has so much to offer, and I wanted to share his knowledge and wisdom and life story with us on this podcast today. So welcome, Justin.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here. Big fan of your work. So I'm grateful to talk to you.
Hey, man, you're a young lion out there really roaring in the breath space. How'd you get involved in breath work? And, what are some of the things that you like to do today to not only enhance the quality of your mind and body, but also all the thousands of people that you work with across the world?
Absolutely. So I am a Leo, so you're very intuitive with the lion reference. And I do feel like the more I speak my voice, the better things flow for me from a creativity standpoint. Um, I'm a physical therapist by trade, so I'm a doctor of physical therapy. I got that degree in 2017, so about 9 years ago. Been practicing outpatient orthopedic. I did some rotations in the intensive care unit in the hospital setting, so I got a nice broad grasp of the work as a physio. And then over COVID, realized that my personal practice of breath work could be applied to general population, helping individuals with stress. So I've heard this story from a lot of breathwork practitioners. It's like that's where it all started. Jumping on Facebook Live, saying, "Hey, let's breathe, relax,
Mm-hmm.
release some of the stress of the day, of the situation," and from there, continue to practice physical therapy. And at the same time, I found that I could do breathwork coaching alongside and integrated with my physio. So I do currently, I'm in Northwest Arkansas,
Mm-hmm.
Benton, specifically in the Ozarks. It's where I'm from, born and raised, and grateful to bring the art of breath to this local community. And yeah, that's short where I'm
Good.
at.
I love the art, this whole art and science thing of breath. And gosh, it wants us to be so creative with it, once we learn the basics of it. Let's talk a little bit about kind of the holy grail of the inhale, which is the relationship that we have with our phrenic nerve and our diaphragm muscle, which is really it's a muscle, but it's actually an organ in regard to all the responsibilities it has to keep us alive and vibrant. Would you be able to speak on that for me?
Yeah, no, I love the diaphragm.
Yeah,
As multidimensional as it is, it's a fascinating muscle given its location
yeah.
to the core, its shape. It's
Mm-hmm.
unique in the sense that it's in a dome shape. It contracts and pulls down and relaxes and rises up. Um, there's a suction component, but it's also a synergist with so many respiratory muscles, ribs, intercostals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it definitely depends and it relies on structure to perform optimally. So this is where physical therapy mind comes in. I think
Yeah.
about in order for the diaphragm to work most efficiently and properly, I feel that there must be a solid foundation
Mm-hmm.
below through the feet connecting with the earth, through the legs, through the glutes, the hips, the lower abdominals, the intrinsic abdominal muscles, everything working together to create a nice strong framework so the diaphragm can perform optimally from the musculoskeletal perspective. But then if you look at the benefit of respiratory system, circulatory system, it's a fascinating muscle, and how much blood it pumps, how much blood it uses, where it circulates everything. That's just a little kickstart into my thinking around diaphragm, but it does start with foundation and physics and um, kinesiology of it.
That's so cool. I love the way you brought in footwork, foundational work. Our foot placement plays such a huge role in not only how the brain responds and what our heart rate is and how our body responds. Our lower body mechanics are kind of like the secret weapon. All great athletes, really have a strong, from the navel down to the ball joint and the arch of the foot and the heel plate. They have such a relationship, with the earth in their lower body. And it's just such a thing that's omitted so much in life is like what's going on in our lower body. Like we don't really,
Mhm.
we think it's just something to carry our head around, when in fact it's like the foundation, of everything. So, this awareness of footwork, it's like, when you're a fighter, you lose your breath, you lose your grounding rods in your legs, you're going down,
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
So the same, it's like a metaphor for anything in life. If you're not connected down into your lower body and the benefits of that, it's really hard to navigate the mental choosing mind.
Absolutely. And I think something I'm uniquely fascinated right now by is posture and presence, the combination of posture and presence.
Yeah.
The more awareness to your physical body and posture, the more presence you bring into the world around you. And I think that most people brush aside posture when they hear the word posture because they have a negative
Right.
connection to their mother yelling at them, sit up straight, or their teachers, yelling, hey, sit up straight. So most of the time people hear posture, they go into this stiff and rigid
Hmm.
position. But I think that's a pseudo position. It's not structurally sound. Posture for me, as I've dove deep into the practice of posture, it comes from the breath.
Hmm.
Whenever you fill from within and you expand your ribs, you take your fullest possible breath. You notice that the chest rises slightly. The anchoring comes from the diaphragm and below. The ribs expand in three directions, four directions even.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's posture. And it's not sitting up straight, rigid, low back, tight, and
Hmm.
stressed.
Hmm.
It's a balanced presence. And through thinking about that, it would serve you and your posture to bring the thinking not just about the breath and the posture of the shoulders and the core and the spine, but down into the feet, down into your root. So I'm fascinated by the fact that thinking about breath isn't just thinking about the mechanics. You can just think about the mechanics, but if you think about breath and you correlate thinking about breath as a source of energy and life and longevity, that amplifies the benefit of your thinking about breath. And the same thing with posture. You bring your awareness to your posture. You can either think about it mechanically and be like, okay, I'm sitting up
Hmm.
straight, or you can think about it energetically and how it aligns everything, how you can create more space. And in that, it's not just posture, it's not just mechanics, it's presence, it's openness to the world, it's capacity to handle things. And whenever it comes to sports and performance, like you mentioned, you're more engaged and you're more connected and you're more likely to succeed. And also, not just in sport, but in work and performance and emailing, more
Yeah.
present. You can't go wrong with that as a line of thinking and practice.
Dude, you just covered so much ground there. It's huge. It's amazing, what we can tap into just with, putting our feet on the ground, connecting our
Mhm.
awareness to that downward thrust of the diaphragm, and then noticing what happens to our spine and the posture of the spine and the mind of the spine. How the spine responds to a rounded or an upright, diaphragm moving down, how my mind responds to
Mhm.
the alignment or lack of alignment in my spine, how my brain works with that. Life has a tendency, no matter what we're doing, to kind of fold us over, and just having that
Mhm.
awareness, like staying in alignment in those times of our day where there's pain or there's sadness or, there's stress, all I try to do is get back into a straight spine. And that puts me in a position to make a really good
Mm.
mental choice.
Absolutely. And I call it functional fidgeting. Most of us are stuck at our stuck at our computers. We're stuck in one position. There's no such thing as bad posture. Rounded
Hmm.
forward, I don't consider
Hmm.
bad.
Hmm.
Being stuck in a single posture is bad posture.
Hmm.
So it's all about variety. So I don't consider forward bad, but forward for too long is bad. I don't consider upright great, but
Hmm.
upright too long isn't that great, right? So I want the body wants to breathe. And like you said, life weighs us down, but it
Hmm.
also breathes us up.
Yeah.
Every breath is perfectly balanced with a rise and a fall. And every
Yeah.
25,000 breaths we take, there's a subtle rise and a subtle fall. So there's subtle movement of our posture every day throughout the
Hmm.
day, constantly. And so tapping into that natural movement will benefit us in many ways. So I think about this is what I think about on a daily basis, and the more, and I think about the fact that the more I think about this, the less I think about stress, the less I think about things
Right.
that are
Right.
like troubling,
Right.
uh, and it orients my mindset into that positive mindset. And so we could go off on 20 tangents, but
No,
I'll let you take it the
no,
direction.
I just love how knowledgeable you are about the details. And if you don't have awareness of the details, you certainly can't navigate the big picture of life. The more awareness you have about how things work, the easier it's going to be for you to navigate, the mental landscape that we're all in.
Mm-hmm.
So this relationship I think that we have, with our inhale is a big step in the right direction in regard to holding ourselves, in true north.
Absolutely. I love that.
So this inhale leads us to this another amazing thing called exhale.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, do we have a problem or a challenge with exhale in America in 2026. It's hard. When I don't know about you, but when I first start to work with people, I notice their exhale muscles are really weak. They've atrophied. They have a
Mm-hmm.
hard time. The younger the client, the easier the exhale. But the older the client, the exhale muscles have atrophied. There's somewhat of a higher level of inflammatory response in the body. There might be a little inflammation, around the hips, the glutes, the lower abdomen. To
Mm-hmm.
me, that's, we're not creating the proper exhale. And when we think about, this beautiful, beautiful belly that we've chiseled in our life, whether it doesn't really matter what your belly looks like, it matters what it feels like. It's a master feeler. And feelings are really important in regard to how we're showing up mentally. Can you speak a little bit about this amazing thing that happens 20,000 times or so a day called exhale?
Mm-hmm. Well, exhale is the release. So it's the release of carbon
Mm.
dioxide, it's the release of tension, it's the release of things that you hold on to. I do work in a few corporate settings, and the focus is stress.
Mm.
As you may relate, when you teach breathing, not a lot of ears perk up. Not a lot of attention gets excited when you say, "Hey, we're going to do some breathwork practices." But if you mention, "Oh, we're going to work on releasing stress and getting rid of stress, or empowering stress, building stress resiliency," that piques interest. So I do a lot of work with corporate stress management, and I use stress as the buzzword, but really it's the exhale that we were focusing on. The
Mm-hmm.
exhale to release. And there's many ways to exhale: blowing
Yeah.
out,
Mm-hmm.
long, extended exhale, the natural sigh that happens so many
Mm-hmm.
times a day. The natural sigh that happens so many times, even more times for those who are excessively stressed. That's one of my first questions. How many times when I'm working with a one-on-one client, how many times do you find yourself sighing?
Mm-hmm.
Sigh a lot. How'd you know? Well, I can tell you're stressed. So there's a correlation there. That's the body.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the body naturally wanting to let go and release. And so anytime I see that and I hear that, I encourage leaning into it, right? Go into that exhale, practice the exhale,
Mm-hmm.
sharpen the exhale. Um, And if you want to think about the biomechanics of it, the exhale is the natural relaxing of the diaphragm. So there's not a contraction of the diaphragm to push air out. It's a contraction of the secondary respiratory muscles for exhale.
Hmm.
Really, the secondary respiratory muscles are primary when pushing and squeezing and engaging the exhale. Um, and that's where my focus goes in my own life whenever stress is hitting, shit's hitting the fan. I go down because
Hmm.
bringing in the mindset and the connection of mind body in the exhale in the world of stress and life and modern world, we're in our head, we live in our head. There's no better way in my mind to get into the body, into the heart by than by exhaling and
Hmm.
focusing and giving extra energy. So you're bringing your brain awareness and also your physical energy attention down deep.
Yeah.
And that's another tool to lead to better presence, better posture, better footing, better
Hmm.
grounding. So exhale, I would say, is as important or equally important to inhale. Well, I would say equally. They're one and the same, just
Yeah.
different ends of the spectrum.
It's a beautiful seesaw. One pulls on the other and the other pulls on the other, and it happens, autonomically, or we
Yep.
can consciously play with it through
Mm-hmm.
length, depth, and pace control of inhale and exhale. You mentioned something called CO2. Dude, it is the superpower that we ignore at our own peril. Can you speak little bit about the benefits that you found in your life and with your clients with amplifying CO2?
Yeah. Amplify CO2, breathe less, breathe
Yeah.
slower, hold your
Mm.
breath. It is a magic, it's a magic tool. They're becoming really popular right now are those big CO2 suits. Have you seen those?
Yeah, they're wild. They're over in Europe.
I have you used one yet?
I haven't used one, but I know the
Yeah,
guy who's making them. Or
nice.
this.
I've had the pleasure of trying one out and using one a few times here, and it's wild because they have a suit. So for those who don't know, it's kind of like a balloon suit that has uh, it's tight around the neck, tight around the wrist, tight around the ankles, so
Hmm.
it can fill up. So what they do is first they put the suit on, strap you in, and then they suck all of the air out. So it's skin tight. It's like a vacuum seal. And then they apply carbon dioxide, pure carbon dioxide, and then that thing full. So you're laying like you're sitting, lounging in a chair, and then you're in this like balloon filled with CO2. CO2 is absorbed by the skin. So it's not subcutaneous is a specific word, transdermal. Um, your body
Interesting.
absorbs the CO2, which perforates into the cells and perforates into the blood. And so all of a sudden, without doing breath work, your body has a heightened state of CO2, increasing Bohr effect, increasing oxygen
Hmm.
utility. The fascinating thing is the buzzing and tingling that you get just from sitting and like being in that suit. Even more fascinating for guys, there was a little bit extra heat, buzzing, and tingling around the testicle area. Well,
Hmm.
there's excess capillary, excess skin exposure,
Hmm.
excess exposure there. So it's like pretty profound being in that bubble suit of carbon dioxide. Like, wow, I literally feel this. But then as a breathwork instructor at the same time, as I'm in there, I'm like, I get the same kind of sensation just from doing breath holds, doing
Right.
breath work, doing
Right.
hypercapnic training. And I kind of like that better. I'm all about active participation in performance versus passive. There is benefit to passive, and I think that that tool, that suit, is amazingly beneficial and for a lot of populations. And they're saying that it is helping with some cancer treatments. There are some studies that are. I kind of get cautious in speaking into the magic therapies of cancer, and I know that's such a hard struggle for so many people, but to see that there's promise just using carbon dioxide in these suits for cancer,
Right.
I can't help but think of the connection to, well, what about the preventative nature of breathwork training and
Right.
capnic training and carbon dioxide training on a daily basis? Like, is that also a cancer preventive type practice? I think so personally. Whenever I'm doing my own practices and whenever I'm teaching classes, I'm thinking about that. I'm speaking and teaching into the breathing practice, but I'm also thinking in the back of my head, this is helping them on a deep cellular level. And they don't even know it, but
Without a doubt.
it just feels good. But on a deep cellular level, this CO2 uh, practice is amazing.
It's almost like anything but breath work. When you go out to the
Yeah.
general
Yeah.
public, I'm going to do everything out there but control my breath because I don't know why. It's like there's this mental block,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. But it's so interesting, this relationship that humanity has, with their breath.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird. To
I
me,
think it's
it's weird.
hard. I think
It,
it's
it,
hard. I
it's
think it's
hard for
hard.
us to imagine that this
Well, I think it's
invisible
hard.
thing.
I think it's hard for people to breathe consciously. It's so easy to do things unconsciously, but if you're going to practice breath work, you have to be conscious
Right,
to reality. And a lot of our world and nature is disconnect from
right,
reality as much as you
right,
can, or um, not purposefully, unconsciously, but I'm I'm trying actively. I can see how much my phone is influencing my brain,
right,
how many times I impulsively want to look at it or think about it. And those are moments for me to consciously choose to focus on breath. But it's hard. It takes energy to make that decision, and it takes awareness to deepen into the breath. And so it surprises me that it's not more mainstream, yet I'm not surprised because
right.
it's it's hard. It's like a choice. It's a choice. It's for me, it's a life choice. It's the ultimate life choice. I made the choice 9 years ago, listening
Hmm.
to Wim Hof. I was like,
Hmm.
that guy, he's on to something. I love
Hmm.
this. I'm in. And I started practicing it. I started feeling it. And I'm like, I can't go back. I
Right.
see, once you see it and once you feel it, you got to, I made the choice to keep going. And here I am now still preaching.
Yeah, and you're doing a pretty good job of it, my man. When you think about, when I think about CO2,
Mm-hmm.
I became aware of something that I missed for years, that I'm exhaling as many oxygen molecules as I'm inhaling. I'm inhaling O2, I'm exhaling CO2. Like I never put those two together.
Mm-hmm.
And normally they're like two ships just passing in the night. Like they
Mm-hmm.
see each other, but one's coming in and one's going out. And
Mm-hmm.
when you hold those two together in
Mm-hmm.
the moment, in your lungs, in your bloodstream, with just a 2 or 3 second hold in or a 2 or 3 second hold out, amazing things begin to happen to our biology, to our chemistry, to our psychological states. Can you speak a little bit about brief breath holds and how you might use that in your clinical setting or how you might use that yourself to become more present of your skill sets?
Yeah, it's a great question in so many ways. But what comes to mind first is walking holds,
Mm,
so breath holds while
mm,
walking. Um, Again, this is personal practice, and I guinea pig breath work with myself so that I can instruct others. And so, um, and that's the same thing with as a physical therapist. I get injured and I'm like, dang, I hurt my knee. And then I'm like, okay, cool. I get to learn about my knee and then get to learn
yeah, I love
recovery and
that.
rehab. So I have this chronic optimism of kind of difficulties,
Mhm.
which I appreciate. But sometimes it comes at a detriment. But with breath holds and walking, I'm it's such a great practice to take a couple breaths, exhale, hold, count your steps. Don't modify your steps, just walk normal. walk as far as you can, see, notice the shift, notice the body struggle, see if you can go beyond the struggle, see where you are mentally. Maybe you can't go as far within that struggle and get more steps. But then whenever you recover and you come back to normal breathing, you can catch your breath, recover, and then do another round,
Mhm.
or you can slow your breath and kind of find there's a line. There's a
Right.
line, and the line is rise in carbon dioxide, and oxygen is going to be fairly saturated. So you're like you said, like you're breathing in and out oxygen. We're well oxygenated
Very well.
part. And so you're really playing with that CO2 level. But there's a line, and you can hit that line with breath holds. You can also hit that line with extended breath holds, but you can also hit that line with slowing your breath and increasing your speed. So there's so
Mhm.
many ways to touch the line and toggle the line of hypercapnia. And every time, like you said, it increases presence, it increases awareness, it increases mind body connection. And then on a cellular level, magic is happening because you're creating a slight stressor, but your
Mhm.
body is very well adapted to navigate stress.
Right.
Allostasis, I love allostasis, the concept, the term. Um,
Mhm.
I'm fascinated with that, which is your body's ability to navigate stress and create
Mhm.
homeostasis. So, breath is the ultimate tool to create that purposeful dysregulation to
Right.
sharpen the re-regulation. And carbon dioxide, I think, is the primary carrier of that practice. So, um, yeah, love the question.
Well, it's great because you think about when we get older, we just don't circulate as well as we did through our ligaments, joints, muscles,
Mm-hmm.
bones. And, the body just becomes, for a lack of a better term, somewhat arthritic. So if you can take something like breath control and you can
Mm-hmm.
walk, walking is a very non invasive exercise. And then you can add a breath control, say a breath control sequence, nothing crazy, to your walk. You're actually tricking your body into thinking that you're running, but you're only putting pounding at a level of walking to your muscles, bones, and joints. But your organs, your core organs, are under stress as if you're running. So you're
Mm-hmm.
receiving the benefits of running, but you're only putting the wear and tear of walking on the muscles, bones, and joints.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what a great hack. So I can do cardio. I can thin my blood. I can put myself at a higher altitude than what I am. My blood can come thinner and more transparent. If I can control my breath while I'm walking and hack my system, because nobody's dying of muscle cancer. People are dying of organ cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just walking and you hold your breath out for just say 3 steps, there's a slight arousal, sympathetic charge to that to your heart. And then you
Mm-hmm.
inhale and you hold the breath in for 6 breaths. And then you exhale, hold out for 4 steps. Inhale, hold in for 8, 5, 10, 6, 12, 7,
Mm-hmm.
14. And all of a sudden, you just pop. Your core system just thinks you ran a 440 top speed,
Yeah,
but,
yeah,
but you only walked. So
yeah.
watch what happens to your heart rate. When you have a resting heart rate, you normally can hold the breath in twice as long as you can hold it out. But as your heart rate goes up, it equalizes to 50-50.
Nice. Yeah. I love that. Uh, it's it's fascinating because again, it's there's something called rating and perceived exertion.
Exactly.
And whenever you limit the amount of breath that you give yourself or control, RPE goes up, even though the activity may stay the same. So um, I'll use an interesting example again popping to my head, but I worked with an older individual in the physical therapy space, home health, and he's wheelchair bound. So his level of activity is fairly low. He's wheelchair bound probably for like 5 years. And so I was helping him with a few different layers and every now and then his nursing team would need some support with like changing and extra stuff there. But I remember like the first time we had to help change him, he took off his shirt and he was just ripped, and his stomach and his abs and his ribs were just so. But he had trouble breathing was one of his things he's working on. But because of the trouble breathing, he had to use extra focus and muscle and attention on his core, on his respiratory system. And the guy had a six pack. Now, it came from a big struggle in health
Hmm.
and ability. Like he basically was in that RPE, high rating of perceived exertion, just sitting there because he was struggling and having trouble breathing. And we did a lot of great work with him, and he's still doing quite well. But the fact is, he was not taking breath for granted because he was working for his breath, uh, every breath of his life. But the byproduct was he's in great shape. He's great
Hmm.
mind shape. He's great physical shape. He's in a wheelchair, and he did good like physical exercise, but his respiratory system really fueled and strengthened everything. So it's like if you were to do only breathwork training 20 times a day as a primary practice, it's going to make a profound difference. And I think
Hmm.
back to, I was working with Brian McKenzie, doing a
Hmm.
mentorship with him maybe 4 years ago. And as I was working with him, he
Great.
challenged me. Yeah, he's great. He challenged me to um, just slow my breath, respiratory rates, focus on nasal breathing. It was a
Hmm.
new concept at the time for me. So, okay, I shifted. I did everything in my life the exact same, worked out the same, ate the same, but I just slowed my breathing. And I got obsessive with it because that's what I do as a breath teacher. I was like, okay, let me really focus on nasal
Right.
breathing, slow breathing. Within 3 weeks, I lost 10 pounds.
Hmm.
10 pounds. I didn't change a thing. I did everything, but my focus was
Right.
on breathing.
And where did you lose it? Right here,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is
How'd you know?
nuts
How'd you know? Yeah,
because that's what happens. It
exactly.
goes to the hardest to hit areas of where we're the densest right away.
Right there, but also inside the visceral. I believe
Yeah.
my visceral fat cleaned up quick. And that was my one of my biggest eye-opening moments. I was like, okay, I lost weight, but I didn't lose muscle mass.
Right.
I actually gained. I was like, oh, I feel like I'm gaining strength. And so as I'm saying that, I'm like, maybe I need to get back on that protocol a little bit. No, I'm joking, but
I hear amazing things about Brian McKenzie. I've never met him, but I'm friends with Emily Hightower, who is
yeah.
kind
Oh,
of like
awesome.
his right hand uh,
Yeah.
man there, and she's amazing. And
Yeah, we've got great breathers in the world. So that gives me hope. As much as it's hard to articulate the message, we have great people like Brian and Emily and so many more pushing the message and
yeah,
you sharing the work on podcasts. So,
well, I think it's a dual thing. You know, there needs to be education, and there
mhm.
needs to be experiences. And I think they both, you have to know what your client needs. Does the client need a little foundational education and a little bit of experience, or does it need just a little bit of education to get him or her interested, and then it needs more experience to buy into it?
Yeah, it's great.
You know, everybody's different, you know. So we talked about this amazing inhale, this amazing exhale. We talked about pausing of the breath and how it can be used in other ways to enhance our vitality. Uh, what about fast breathing? Whether it's through the nose or whether it's through the mouth. How do you find that today as far as benefits to humanity?
Yeah, no, it's a great benefit. Well, one, there's unconscious fast breathing, which is not a benefit. It's a
Oh, boy. It's a tough assignment, man.
it's a detriment. That's where respiratory rates a little bit accelerated, likely due
Hmm.
to stress and shallow breathing, and your body needs that exchange. But purposeful fast breathing is fascinating for me. It's like fast breathing is the same, but it's completely different if it
Hmm.
comes from different places. So if it comes
Right.
unconsciously, it's
Hmm.
terrible. But if it comes purposefully, fast breathing I like to stimulate the nervous system. So
Yeah.
fast breathing, I think more than anything, like I haven't even mentioned nervous system yet.
Hmm.
You say fast breathing, the first thing that comes to mind for me is stimulation, nervous
Hmm.
system, um, sympathetic activation. But as is true with life, what goes up must come down. So fast breathing with purpose and intention,
Hmm.
and the intention of balancing fast breathing with slow breathing is essential. So fast breathing necessary, but more necessary than fast breathing practices is having a equal practice to slow yourself down and come back to regulation. I can't think of a situation where you would fast breathe just to fast breathe, activate, and not regulate.
Right.
The body is made, and humans, mammals are made to sit at calm, parasympathetic, nervous
Hmm.
system relaxed and alert, but also grounded, safety. So fast breathing without
Hmm.
focus on relaxed, I think is negligent or irresponsible. So that's
Hmm.
my header talking about fast breathing is focusing on the importance of slowing it down. But yeah, nasal breathing, breath of fire, wake up the muscles, wake up the mind, wake up the system. I work with a lot of athletes, and I'll use fast breathing as the tool to get them ramped up mentally before
Hmm.
they perform, but also get them ramped up mechanically and physiologically so that they don't gas out early. So you can
Right.
prep. And when
Right.
I go for a run, I'm like, I
Hmm.
jump up to gear 4, gear 5, thinking about Brian McKenzie's work and
Hmm.
gear system. I'm purposefully accelerating to give me a jump start and give my body, my engine, a jump start of energy before finding that nice balance point. So there's so many ways in which you can use breath, nervous system, talk about stress and email apnea and functional fidgeting and being still. No better way to move and shift the body than accelerate breathing. And as is true with everything, you can fast breathe nasal, breath of
Hmm.
fire, you can fast breathe Wim Hof style, you
Hmm.
can fast breathe in many ways. It's just understanding what tool you're doing and why, which is again why I love BMAC, his work. He says methods are many, principles are few. Understand the principles of breath, and you don't need to focus on methods. You can play with many methods. Just focus.
Right.
Why are you doing the technique you're doing? Why are you wanting to accelerate your
Right.
breath?
I
Make it
like that.
purposeful, intentional. So, yeah,
I just think how the breath plays such a huge role in the different regions of the brain because not all regions of the brain are created equal. And, controlling the breath, regardless of technique, seems to light up certain areas of the brain, whereas unconscious breathing would turn that area off, and you're more down in the lower brainstem, more animalistic, sort of
mm,
speak. Eat, sleep,
hmm,
procreation. And there's a lot of great science out there to back that up about what happens in the brain when we consciously control our breath and how the hippocampus lights up. And for adults, there's like new awarenesses there around the old story where we can get out of our way and perform at levels which we thought were not available to us. And it
absolutely,
happens almost like a light switch going on.
absolutely. I always talk about, and this is where when I'm working with corporate practitioners or corporate America, and I'm doing breathwork practicing. Um, I talk about the thinking brain and the breathing brain.
Hmm.
Uh, Often
Beautiful.
stuck in the
Bravo.
thinking brain. Yeah, so thinking brain, and just to reduce and what we know about breath in the brain is very infantile. Like there's so
Right.
more. We have no idea what's going on with the breath in the brain. We
Right.
have general idea, but the brain is so complex, and we're only learning more
Right.
and more about it. But to simplify, I always say, and whenever I'm teaching, this is your thinking brain, prefrontal cortex. This is
Hmm.
your breathing brain, the brainstem. When you
Hmm.
bring focus and awareness into your breathing, you're getting out of your thinking and into your breathing. And what happens when you bring that attention, energy, blood flow from your thinking brain to your breathing brain? It moves through the feeling brain, the limbic
Hmm.
system, the
Hmm.
ability to feel physical sensations, your somatomotor, somatosensory system. You're getting involved in the physical body. So your focus of breath is going from thinking brain to breathing brain, but really it's going into all aspects of
Right.
feeling, experiencing, and moving. And so I see that people grasp that. It's hard to grasp like what's going on. And you can say, oh, yeah, breathing's great for the hippocampus. And people are like, I don't even know what that is, but thank you.
Right.
Yeah. So simplifying it, thinking brain, breathing brain, it wakes people up and they're like, oh, interesting. And then they feel it. You do
Hmm.
some form of controlled, deep, faster than normal breathing, balance with calm breath. And then all of a sudden, you say, oh, notice quiet mind. Is there a little bit more of a quiet mind? Oh, yeah. And they're like, wow,
Hmm.
eyebrows raised. And then you see them 3 weeks later, and I'll see these corporate individuals. I'm using corporate as the example, but anyone I work with, see them 3 weeks later, they're either like, I've been doing this, it's amazing. I feel more
Right.
present, or we just walk by each other and they obviously have not been practicing their work. But
Right. Right.
it's a mixed bag of who receives the message. But for those who receive it, it's always well received. And even people I've worked with, I've seen 2 years later and they're like, thank you. 2 years later, I'm still
Right.
doing these things. This is it's life-changing work for sure.
Yeah. People remember you,
Yeah.
because when that light bulb goes on, they remember who was the electrician for them,
Yeah.
and that's you.
Yeah.
I try in the corporate setting, I try to explain to people, when there is conflict and when there is adversity in the boardroom, the person with the lowest heart rate is going to come up with the greatest idea. The person with
Mm,
the highest heart rate will revert back to the old program, which might have been great 5 years ago, but it's not going to move the problem along right now. And when
hmm
you think about your respiration rate and your heart rate are closely linked to how your mind is going to work, open or protected, presence or fear, this whole thing can usually always be traced back to a respiratory issue.
hmm hmm
It's like we don't think about it. I don't like to generalize, but majority of disease, is stress related, and stress first begins as a respiratory disorder, and we
hmm
begin to strain the biology
hmm It's the first to go, and it could and should be the first to be looked at to
to
recover.
repair,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
repair.
Yeah. It's funny. So much of medicine currently is moving in a great direction in my mind, which is finding the
Mm,
root. Find the root. Uh,
right.
Instead of navigating symptoms and putting band-aids on everything, what's the root? Breath is the root for everything. Functional medicine, lifestyle medicine, and then everything as I'm seeing in my world is coming down to metabolic health,
Hmm.
metabolic
Yes.
medicine. Metabolism just is rooted in breath, respiratory metabolism,
Yes.
and nutrition. So it's one of two: nutrition or breath, respiration. But what can you control both? I advise controlling both, like take care of your food intake and what you're consciously eating. But yeah, if you're gonna fix the root and the systemic issues that you're facing, breathing, correct your breathing. It's the easiest, most accessible thing you can change.
Right.
It takes is attention, education, and practice. Maybe some accountability, hire a coach.
Hmm.
Accountability, find a YouTube video you love, set yourself
Hmm.
up for
Hmm.
success. But totally agree. It's the breath is foundational, but it's hard because we live in our little silos. We live in our breath world, and no one else lives in the breath world. So trying hard to preach and share the message.
Well, it's so funny. Like we live in almost like this inverted time where you
Mm,
have to go through what you don't want to get what you want. And
mm,
without discipline, there will be no freedom. So when you think about, if I consciously think about this thing called inhale and exhale and pausing and fast and slow breathing and, whatever
Hmm.
it may be with the practitioners you're working with, every time you consciously control your breath, it lights up your subconscious, and your subconscious makes mental notes about that and says, well, this is helping here. This isn't helping here. And then when you're not thinking about your breath, then your subconscious can take over your breath and help you even unconsciously be a better version of yourself
Hmm.
if you're
No,
interested in being a better person.
everyone is interested in being a better person,
Yeah,
but it's whether or not they're connected to that inner will to be a better person. A lot of people aren't connected to that, and
right.
so breath can inspire and be the spark plug of creating that conscious unconscious connection. But it's hard, life is filled with difficulties and
Hmm.
depression's rampant, and there are real struggles in the world, and it's easy to lose the connection to the inner fire and the inner will. But if you are looking for something new in your life and you're trying to create a spark and a change, breath can 100% be the spark. Yeah.
It is not only the pilot light, it's the volcano.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, what's next for you? You've got this great foundation where you're changing lives at an amazing pace for someone at your young age. What do you see going on in your life coming up in the next 6 months, 6 years?
Yeah, I love that. Currently, I love working with online coaching
Yeah,
clients. One on one is great. Um, I love working with individuals in person here in Northwest Arkansas. If you're ever in
yes.
Northwest Arkansas, hit me up. If you're listening to this and you're ever in Northwest Arkansas, hit me up. It's becoming a quite popular place. Um, it's home of Walmart, which pulls in a lot of economy and financial resources. And there's a lot of philanthropy that focuses on art and wellness and culture and
Mm-hmm.
music and food. And so it's become this nice little like tech bubble
Mm-hmm.
in Ozarks. And I say that because a lot of my purpose is bringing this work of breath to my local community and seeing it ripple out. But we're limited by number of people and our small region. So online inspires me working with teams, athletes. Um, I love doing podcasts and speaking gigs, and so I just see more advocacy, more letting my lion roar a little bit,
Yeah.
shake things up. I'm definitely a status quo shaker. So I'm fully embracing. I'm aiming to fully embrace the online influencer role, even though that's a struggle and that's
Mm-hmm.
a difficult thing to grasp because I don't love this cell phone and what it does, but also there's a necessary component
Right.
there. So um, I in my future, I see growth, but I also see keeping everything cool, calm, the same, and making changes in people's lives on an individual level. I would love to work with some more athletes. So manifesting more athletes. I'm a basketballer. I'm just a hooper. Basketball is my sport. Targeting some work with high level athletes, basketball specifically, in the next couple of years. So putting that
Oh,
into
it's just a matter of hours before they reach you, brother.
yes, sir.
You're a young lion with a lot of energy, but also a lot of wisdom well beyond your chronological birthday, man. So congratulations on the work you've done on yourself and
Thank you,
the
man.
work that you're doing now and the people you haven't met yet that are you're just gonna change their lives. Like bravo, man. Really
Thank you.
great use of a human life.
Hey, appreciate it, man. I really do. That's kind words.
Well, thanks for taking the time to share your wisdom with the world. And I'm sure we're going to meet together in the future and collaborate in some way to help humanity wake up from the dream of the ego.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Justin.
Appreciate it.
I'll see you on the next one.
Absolutely.
All right, brother. So long.
See you.
Bye bye.